We will see that John Cabot will explore the New England coast and helped lay the groundwork for the English claim of Canada. And you've also probably wondered, why is this new land called America? And you can see here it's because of Amerigo Vespucci. He would send letters, and that's what our textbook discussed. He sent letters describing this new land, and people eventually started calling it America. Well, it was also because he was a map maker, and he will draw new maps of the land that Columbus discovered, and he put his first name on the bottom of these maps, Amerigo, and these are going to be printed. So all of these people got these maps, and they saw this name at the bottom, Amerigo, and it soon became called America. Many people wanted to quick change it and maybe call this new land Columbia after Columbus, but it was too late thanks to the printing press. Just to review a couple things that I know that you've read and we've talked about, just to give you a key term here, the conquistadors. These are Spanish conquerors of the Americas. As you guys know, some examples, Cortez, Pizarro, Columbus is a conquistador, and they brought incredible success. And again, a lot of it wasn't because they were better, it's because they had superior weapons and things like that, and just really a chance of luck that they were able to defeat many of the Native Americans that they came into contact with. Just to quickly review the Aztecs and to talk a little bit more about them, they ruled much of central Mexico, but the problem with this group is that they were so divided, and they had so many people that really played just a tributary status to them, that it was easy for the conquistadors to find groups that were against the Aztecs to help overpower. And we see here that Cortez and his men marched on the major Aztec city called Tenochtitlan, which is Mexico City today, and they also made alliances with the enemies of the Aztecs, which is Tlaxcalas. And if you've heard of the name Tejanos, these are like direct ancestors. So there's some people living in Texas today that can claim their ancestry back to the Aztec time. And you can see here that the tributary states that really the Aztecs had, which is going to unfortunately play against them. Now, when you were doing your reading about the Aztecs, you should have found some pretty interesting things about what they do with sacrifices. We'll be talking about that soon, but this slide here is just a real quick review about what you read in chapter 3, section 1. You see that when Cortez uses the allies, and really just Montezuma was pretty nice to him at first, and he obviously regrets it later because they thought that he and his men were possibly gods. The prophecies have talked about it. And again, when Cortez is able, with the alliances against the Aztecs, defeat them, he leveled the pyramids, temples, and palaces, filled in the rivers, and really just destroyed the city. And you will see that the people will very soon be decimated. And this is, again, just a draw. This is just a drawing of what a magnificent city, Tenochtitlan, looked like, and again, how Cortez will quickly change it. Now, a lot of people are very interested, and they want to know more about the Aztec human sacrifices that went on, and understand it went on with the Aztec people, and then also some people that they have conquered. But they really believed that they owed a blood debt to the gods. And they thought they would avert some sort of, disaster if they would give their blood. Animals and humans were sacrificed. You also had what's called ritual bloodletting, and this was a common medical practice really up through the 19th century, where you would just, doctors would often cut people and you would just let the bad blood come out of your body. But you will see, thousands of people will cut themselves to let blood come out, and that would be a debt to the gods. This went on really for thousands of people each year. It's estimated as high as 20,000 people a year are going to be killed in the Aztecs sacrificial. There were 18 months in their calendar year, and we know that each month there were sacrifices. The victim was painted and placed on a slab where their heart was removed, and the heart was then held up to the sun, and their body was typically thrown down the stairs of the temple or the pyramid, and their body would be fed to animals or their head was put on display. But we know that, this happened. It could be as many as 20,000 a year. But this aspect of the Aztecs is going to get many people to dislike them and fear them. And when Cortez is able to defeat the Aztecs, people are thinking, maybe we're going to have a better system. In the movie Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, they had a couple of sacrificial scenes. If you've seen this movie, you might have seen something like this. And I know Kate Chapshaw was very close to getting her heart ripped out in sacrifice. Just to review about the Incas, if you guys remember from our video, guns, germs, and steel, Pizarro arrives, and again, overwhelming numbers against him, 80,000 just in the army against him, but you will see that just really with the fate of luck, the welcoming from the leader allows for Pizarro and his men to capture him and take control. And you will see here, that's just a picture of the Inca Empire that's going to be quickly destroyed and taken over. Just to review the line of demarcation, you see the Portuguese are in Brazil, Spanish are in Mexico, Central America and South America, and Queen Isabella declares Native Americans to be Indians. And after you see these major civilizations and empires taken over by the Spanish, you will see a new system of labor put into place and a new type of ruling. You see the encomendo. It is landowners, Spanish landowners, using Native Americans as laborers. This was supposed to protect the rights of Native Americans, but they're going to be put to work on sugar plantations, gold mines, and no one was really concerned about their protection or their welfare. As a result of this forced labor, you will see starvation, you will see disease, and you can just see the numbers here, just how devastating they are and how many, again, overall millions of people, Native Americans, that are actually killed because of this occupation and takeover by the Spanish. On a positive side, I guess you can say, just to give you some more specifics about the Columbian Exchange, which was the exchange of plants and animals, you can be more specific and say food, you could say diseases, you can say peoples, that goes really from Europe and the Americas and also really from Africa, you can add that there, that transform the economic activity of both of these worlds. And again, it is more politically correct to say the Atlantic world versus the New World or the Old World, but the Atlantic world is referring to the Americas, and you can just see some examples of different food that will really transform. You, for example, can look at this list and see all the types of animals coming from Europe to the Americas and animals coming from the Americas to Europe and Africa. And we can't forget about all the diseases that the Europeans brought with them to the Americas, which will greatly decimate the population. Now we're going to talk about the social class structure in colonial Latin America, really that was set up by the conquering and taking over and decimation of the Native American population by the Europeans. And you will see the social classes chart that's broken down for you, and you can see there's 4 main groups. We will be talking tonight for your homework. You will be doing a reading and talk about how African slaves are going to come across the Middle Passage, but again, know that they would be at the same status as Native Americans. You see at the very top, we've got the Pensillares, and I will explain to you what that is. These are officials that pretty much rule, and they have to be born in Europe, and they hold very important government offices and government positions. They are really treated pretty much like royalty in the New World or in the Atlantic world. You also have the Creoles, and these are just descendants of European-born in Latin America. They control land and businesses. So you would still be European, but you were not born in Spain. If you were born in Spain, you would be in a higher class and considered a first-class citizen. You would control land and business, but as I said, you were second class because you were born in Latin America, not in Spain. You had various multi-racial groups. The Spanish and the Portuguese who moved into Latin America, and they lived within the slave labor. Spanish rulers permitted intermarriage between Europeans and Native Americans, and their offspring was known as mestizos, and over time they became the superior group due to their large numbers. And Europeans and African offspring were known as mulattoes. This is like the third group. And the final group, Native Americans and African slaves, which really they're just treated as property. Just to kind of remind you, Brazil is controlled by Portugal, and Spain controls Latin America for over 300 years. Some difficulties they had, obviously communication and travel. They really didn't have close regulations, and this resulted in colonial officials really carrying out their own policies. You had the appointments of viceroys, and they're pretty much governor general in the mid-1500s, and they can pretty much do what they want, but they are supposed to be ruling under the crown. Just to kind of remind you about the church, their role is to Christianize the natives. You had Dominicans, Franciscans, and Jesuits. I know that we talked about the Jesuits. These are missionaries going really somewhat with a superior attitude, telling Native Americans, you need to convert to our religion. They would, though, live in villages. They did try to control the lives of Native Americans. They tried to do good deeds like set up hospitals, orphanages, and schools. But the problem is they really don't have any empathy or understanding, really, of the Native Americans or their culture. And they're saying this is our culture and it's better than yours. We have concluded the Age of Exploration, Part 2. Video, and tonight for homework you will be reading, or you will be watching another video about the slave trade, and we will apply what you've learned in class. Very depressing. Can anyone tell me the score in tonight's Cards Pirates game?